Welcome to Possum's Corner. Today we're talking about righteousness. Righteousness ain't just you trying to do good. It's not you doing your best. It's not serving. It's not being devout or pious in any way. It's not being a good church member. It's not giving. It's not anything that you do on your own apart from God. Being right with God is what righteousness is, and it's something God determines. You don't determine that. You know, Abraham believed God, and he credited it to him as righteousness. God says when you're right with Him. That's the bottom line. And it always results from God speaking or gracing into our lives, and you hearing and trusting the thing that He says. You know, I guess in a way I've always wanted to be right with God in one way or another. You know, that's kind of what I was looking for. I remember early on crying out to God as a young man, and God showed Himself. I've talked about this before. He manifested Himself to me, and I knew God was speaking to me, and things started happening. The problem is I mistook the invitation for God's acceptance. God was inviting me into relationship with Him, but I took it as, oh, God spoke, things have changed, therefore I'm a new creature in Christ. And I had plenty of religious friends there to help me go ahead and soak that up and tell myself that I was okay. Bad error. That is not righteousness. The more I try to be right with God, I find myself actually getting further away from Him, like the Harley Davidson and the bald head, the edgy preacher, you know, all the things I was doing. Check this out. I've got these religious tattoos, crown of thorns, big cross, and I've got another one on my foot. And all of those were something I dreamed up to make myself appear more godly to other people. I wanted to be radical guy, zealous for Jesus. Well, I was zealous, all right, without knowledge, right? None of that made me right with God. It was all my own strength. It was due to be, is what it was. We talked about that. It was me doing to be radical for God. And it was my idea. It had nothing to do with what God was speaking to me. Man, don't fall for that one.
Okay. What about you?
JB,
Yeah.
what about me?
I wasn't asking about you. No one cares about you, Gaffer.
I don't know if I can follow Jesus like you all. I mean, you're so spiritual. Possum's Corner, episode 8, scene 3. What about you?
What about you? Are you going to try to be right with God on your own, like I did? Are you going to try and struggle out of your own strength, or to be pious or reverent or holy, or read your Bible or go to church or pray or whatever? Man, I don't care how noble it seems to you. The only thing that's going to make you right with God is hearing Him speak and trusting Him and obeying Him. Then God will tell you that you're right with Him. And all of that comes from the heart. It always comes from a deep place in your heart where God's speaking to you and you trust it with all that you are, without reservation, with everything. Everything. Like I said, put a gun to my head. This is the truth. I got the revelation. I got the aha. I know this is what God is speaking, and I put a gun to my head. I will stand here because it is the only thing in this life that's solid and worth standing on. All right, so how do you get right with God, right? One of the greatest examples that I can think of is Abraham. I mean, 430 years before the Bible came about. There was a man, and nothing but a man and God, period. He probably had a bunch of wives and sheep and goats and all kind of cows and whatever. But anyway, God speaks to him and he says, move. You know, I don't know what was in Abe's head at the time, but I'm sure he was probably sitting there thinking, is that you, God? I'm pretty comfortable here, you know, but you want me to move, I'll move, or whatever. But Abraham knew that that voice came from somewhere other than him. It was a voice that came from outside of him, and he recognized that voice as God. He knew it was God, so he moved. Why did he move? He moved because he trusted God's voice, the thing that God spoke to him. Abraham heard God's voice and trusted him, and God said he was right. So look at here, man. If you want to be right with God, just the real way, and you can do it the Possum way, just base, just down, nitty gritty, down to the base level. It only takes you and God. That's all. And it can be, I don't care where you are. If you could be on the highest mountain peak in Russia, or you could be in your living room like me with your face in the seat of your recliner. It doesn't matter. You should know, as you're hearing me speak to you right now, that God is talking to you. And you have an opportunity. And you're accountable. You know the truth now that it only takes you and God for you to become right with God. God, speak to me. Ask Him to speak to you. And then wait. It's always about heart. It's always God's program. He speaks what He chooses to speak, which is exactly what you need, with surgical freaking accuracy. God knows what you need. He'll speak it. You wait. If you're not hearing, I promise you, He'll speak to you. And when He does, get understanding and trust Him and obey Him. And you'll be completing the cycle of hearing, trusting, and obeying. And it's just as simple as that. It doesn't have to be some big, complicated endeavor. All right. So righteousness is just being right with God. That's all. Plain Jane, just being right with God. That happens from God speaking and you hearing, trusting, and obeying Him. That's it. Not knowing positive or having sufficient evidence to guide me, I feel a supreme delicacy in articulating for fear of promulgating something I can't masticate. If it ain't true, don't eat it. I ain't.